Flip over onto your back.
Okay, Carl, turn your head that way. Back to the middle. Now turn this way.
She was born with helping people. I doubt that too many people have known someone like Karen. She was in people's hearts.
Wow, she was so many things. She was so talented. She was so fun. She was so witty. She sang frequently to her patients. She just believed that that was part of healing.
Karen and I were good friends as well as mother and daughter. And I think about her every day.
This is a failed safety system. The dealership, Goodson North, dropped the ball.
You wouldn't put up with a technician showing they did a recall but actually not doing it, would you?
No, sir, we would not. It would be cheating.
Had the interlock functioned, we wouldn't be here today, and Ms. Collins would.
With my sister gone, her hole just got a whole lot bigger. The hole in her heart, that is.
You feel like part of you is gone. It just tears you up inside, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you're at a loss. You can't hold on to that person. You can't say, come back. Taylor.
Karen Collins couldn't wait to get up in the morning. There was so much to do and not a minute to lose. Karen was the second of 3 daughters. In photographs with her sisters, just look for the short one. She was a dynamo who lived large, mostly for the opportunity to help other people.
When she was helping someone, especially like a stroke patient, she was trying to help this person stand again, it just gave her pride to watch this person progress to wherever they should be.
When Sue Collins lost her husband many years ago, she never remarried, but she still had the girls. She loves all of them, but there was just something about Karen.
Sometimes she would take me out on a date to a new restaurant. We just had a good time together.
They had a relationship that was just unbelievable. They could say anything to each other. They were able to go do things they wanted to do, and they did. They went on a cruise together. If they wanted to go to a ballroom dancing class, they did it. They were best friends.
Throughout her life, Karen gave her love abundantly. She loved God first. She loved her family. She loved Annabelle, her toy rat terrier.
I'll have a blue Christmas without you.
She loved music, whether it was at the piano playing a Christmas sing-along with her mom and sisters, singing the occasional national anthem, or composing jingles for everything from Lowe's Home Builders to the Oprah Winfrey Show. But it was soon after picking up her home economics degree from the University of Texas at Dallas that love really blossomed in Karen Collins' heart. She found work as a physical therapist's assistant, and that changed everything.
Karen treated all of her patients as though they were her own family.
Now slump down the low, just the low back, right there, Carl. Come on, right here, the low back.
She was demanding. She was so small, but she was so giant at the same time. But people just loved her. We never had any complaints about Karen. As a matter of fact, people would wait longer to see her, and if Karen needed to, she would come in at 6 in the morning, whereas normally she didn't start until 8. But if Karen had somebody that needed to be seen, she would come in early or she would stay late to see him.
Perfect. That was so nice.
She would work for 30 minutes for a guy to take 3 or 4 steps. The guy had a stroke and was told he would never walk again. And that's something that Karen didn't want to hear, that a patient would not walk again.
Oh, she was just so respectful of her patients in general, but she dealt a lot with geriatric patients.
Matt Washington.
And she wanted them to always know that they were important to her and that their life experiences were important, and she would listen to their stories, and she wanted them to understand that they were still important.
There was not a lazy bone in her body, I can tell you that. There was not.
Something else stood out about Karen Collins, something both beautiful and haunting.
You move your body on your bad legs.
Karen decided that she would never stop helping people. In the unlikely event that she would suffer a traumatic, premature death, Karen Collins signed documents to become a human organ donor.
That's Karen. That is Karen.
Since the origins of the automobile industry, recalls have been a fact of life. Designers and engineers may have the best intentions, but on occasion a part will systematically fail, to the point where the driver, any passengers, and the public are in danger. By 2004, Honda knew of a serious manufacturing problem after customers began to call or visit their dealerships. Some Honda vehicles, including 1998 Honda Accords, were rolling even after the driver turned off the ignition. The problem was a faulty key interlock within the steering column. When a key interlock works, a driver can't withdraw the ignition key until placing the car in park. But in the 98 Accord, this fail-safe design began to betray some owners. They could inadvertently leave their car in drive and yet take the key out and leave. That 3,000-pound car on the gentle incline of a driveway could endanger a child, a pedestrian, even the Honda owner herself. Karen Collins liked her 98 Accord and took good care of it. Co-worker Marcille Baumgartner recalls their rides together.
To and from lunch, mostly.
She seemed to like her car.
She loved that car.
She keep it clean.
Very clean. She was one of the only people I knew that would take her car and hand wash it at lunch.
Karen also knew how to trust experts to maintain her car. So when this Honda recall notice reached her mailbox in the spring of 2004, she took it seriously. Karen drove the car to her local dealership, Goodson Honda North. She was greeted by service advisor Carl Reed.
Do you recall or do you know what the purpose of the recall was for the safety recall for the ignition switch key interlock back in 03 and 04?
The ignition switch interlock would prevent or the vehicle to be turned off and the key removed from the ignition unless the car was in park.
What's the importance of that?
Because you want it to stay where it's at.
Oh, is one of the possibilities of being able to take the key out of the ignition without the car in park, that the car could roll?
If it was not on flat ground, yes.
Unfortunately for Karen Collins, Goodson Honda North ran anything but a tight ship inside its service center. Mechanics worked with almost no accountability. They signed off on their own work and routinely discarded used customer parts.
Do you have any recollection of the dealership keeping the parts that were replaced as part of this recall?
No, I haven't, no. And as I read through here, it states discard, discard, discard.
Yeah. Bookkeeping was also a mystery. Goodson couldn't tell then or now whether it performed 35 key interlock recall repairs, or 10, or 5, or none at all.
Are you able to tell us how many recall, I guess, work orders or recalls were performed by Goodson North as it relates to the service bulletin 03-088?
No.
Is there any way for us to find that out?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
As Karen Collins sat that morning in the customer waiting area, trusting the dealership to do professional work, she knew nothing about flag hours or repair kits. She didn't know how money might affect the way Goodson fixed her car. And how could she know that they weren't fixing her car?
How are if you know, service technicians paid? Are they paid hourly? Are they paid salary? Do you know?
It's referred to as flag hour. Whatever, if it was an oil pan gasket for a Honda and it paid 2.5 flag hours to do that work, and he performed that, he would flag 2.5 hours of labor.
So if he came to work one morning and there was his oil pan gasket that needed to be done, and it just whipped him and he wasn't able to get it done in 2.5 hours, and just everything about it was a problem, and it took him 8 hours, he's still getting paid 2.5 hours?
Correct.
And just so we're clear, flag time for doing repair kit A, would that be 0.5?
That's how I would read it, yes.
0.5 hours. That's half an hour of time in which a mechanic was expected to understand several pages of procedures outlined for repair kit A, then to disassemble the customer's steering column, perform the key interlock switch repair, and put the car back together. That comes as a surprise to this Goodson Honda North mechanic.
How long would it take you, sir, to perform repair kit A?
Maybe a couple hours.
They get paid $16.75, and that's certainly well below any rate I ever heard from mechanics. I'd like to have mechanics at those rates, but they couldn't survive on it. So clearly, Honda is not authorizing sufficient payment to cover the actual work. That's certainly a disincentive to somebody, just not do the work and report that they had. They seem to have provided Ms. Collins with the sunshine treatment, which is you take the vehicle, put it out, park it out in the sun for a few hours, and give it back without doing anything to it.
The truth about what happened in the service center that day involves two key pieces of evidence. First is the receipt which Goodson handed to Ms. Collins, suggesting the recall work had been performed. The same mechanic assigned to the job claims he did the job, without a coworker or supervisor to confirm it.
Despite your client receiving an invoice for the recall procedure being accomplished, it was never done. It just wasn't done.
The clinching evidence wouldn't emerge until 2009, at the inspection of Karen's Honda attended by the various parties in this suit. What they would discover in the steering column of the car is chilling. On the right in this photograph is the key interlock lever actually removed from Ms. Collins' car in 2009. The lever on the left is from recall repair kit A, with a raised ridge or flange designed to prevent a car from rolling. It's the part that Goodson Honda was supposed to install and claims it did install back in 2004. This is the hard evidence that the work was never performed. The mechanic assigned to the job, Paul Roberts, was later fired when he caused 2 work bay accidents and failed a drug test. He has since passed away. In his absence, acknowledging this physical evidence doesn't come easily for any Goodson North mechanic.
Do you believe Mr. Roberts ever installed the new lever back in 2004?
Object, asking expert opinion, and I instruct you not to answer.
Are you going to follow his advice and not answer a question based on your own personal knowledge?
Yes.
Which one of those looks more like the original design, and which one looks like the repair design?
The one on the left would be repair design.
Minute Maid Park in Houston, Sunday, July 20th, 2008.
Well, we had all been at a baseball game, all meaning myself, my husband, my youngest boy, and Karen. Karen had parked her car here, and after we got back, I hugged her and kissed her, and she got in her car and drove off.
It is 5:30 on a hot afternoon, perhaps a minute or two before. Karen arrives home in her Honda. She stops the car on the driveway, kills the engine, removes her keys, and gets out. She gets her dog Annabelle, places the dog on a leash, and they are now standing on the driveway behind the car. A neighbor, Corey Klum, sees Karen standing there and sees the car roll backward.
And then Miss Collins disappears.
Right, because obviously she got hit.
And then the next thing you see is the car hitting that little small oak tree across the street.
That's correct.
Stephanie Sholin is grilling in her backyard when she hears a crying sound.
What I thought was a child saying, "Mommy." And then I got to listen to it after I heard it 2 more times, and I realized it was somebody saying, "Help me." I immediately looked to my left and saw a lady lying at the bottom of her driveway. I immediately ran down to her, and she told me to call 911, that her car had just ran over her.
Ladies, they ran over by our car. Stay on the line, ma'am. Let me transfer you to EMS. She was ran over by her own car? I got it. I got it, baby. Ma'am? Yes. She was ran over by her own car? It backed over her. Okay, stay on the line.
Karen's shoes are still in the driveway, but she is now lying here in the street, bleeding, broken, and in extraordinary pain. On the 911 call, we can hear Karen in the background.
Okay, she's laying on her side. Okay. Okay, you guys are going to be out in front of the house, right? Yes. Sorry. Okay, is there any serious bleeding?
5:34 p.m. As neighbors begin collecting around Karen, a deputy constable pulls up.
First, I asked her what happened to her.
And let's just talk about that first. What did she say in response to that question?
She said, my car ran over me. She said she was trying to walk her dog, and the vehicle knocked her down and rolled over her. To corroborate Karen's story that it was not being driven and that no one was in the vehicle, I checked to see if it was in park, drive, or what gear it was in. It was in position D4.
As the first responders wait for the Life Flight helicopter that's been called, Karen's sister, Jan Freeman, reaches the scene.
She was very aware of everything. She kept saying, "I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my job. I know I've broken my back." I was just bending over, saying, "Karen, I love you, I love you." And she kept saying, "Jan, where's mom? Where's mom? I need mom." And I kept saying, "She's hurrying, Karen."
I just got home from buying groceries, and I heard a male voice say, "Is this Sue Collins?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "There's been an accident." And I said, "What do you mean there's been an accident?" "Well, your daughter Karen has been in an accident." And I said, "Well, what'd she do, fall off a ladder?" "She just got home from a ball game."
6:05 p.m. Karen has lay on the hot pavement for more than half an hour now. Life Flight medics roll her toward the helicopter and begin her chart on the way to Memorial Hermann. Karen has been awake the whole time. The chopper lands atop Memorial Hermann, and at 6:27, almost a full hour after the Accord crushed her body, Karen is wheeled into the trauma center. She is still awake, still fighting through the agony, and refusing to die. 6:35 in the ER. Karen continues communicating, the chart noting her as distressed and uncomfortable. She complains of leg, abdomen, and back pain. The trauma team begins to fully assess Karen's massive injuries, including several rib fractures, massive abdominal bleeding, a liver which is nearly cut in half. Further down, telltale knee abrasions and the open ankle fracture. If Karen Collins lives, she'll be a physical therapist who needs a physical therapist. Throughout it all, Sue Collins has felt desperate to see her daughter. She arrives in the waiting area with daughter Susan.
We were all pretty much in shock because it happened so fast. Got there as quickly as we could, but they wouldn't let me see her.
At 7:34, now 2 hours into the nightmare, surgery begins. Doctors surgically open and explore Karen's entire front side. What they find is a woman now beyond help. Karen gets 29 units of blood. Then at 8 p.m., the team begins 41 minutes of CPR. The ordeal has gone on now for 3 hours, not just for Karen, but for her anguished mother.
I couldn't have saved her, but at least I could have let her know that I was there.
It is now 8:41 p.m. In a way, Karen Collins has fought the way she always pushed her own patients to fight, never saying no. But her tiny body can no longer match her giant will.
We waited for the doctor to come in and started to tell us about Karen's injuries, and I interrupted him and said, "Is she alive?" And immediately when his eyes dropped first and then his head, and then he said, "No, we lost her," I remember looking at my mother thinking, I'm looking at a woman being told that her child is dead.
I just keep thinking, I just wish that I could have told her that I loved her one more time. And I never got to see her again.
Karen Elaine Collins, age 49, died from massive injuries crushed by the car in her own driveway. It was a car she believed Goodson Honda North had repaired, and that's what Goodson promised this customer in person and on paper. But that story falls completely and tragically short of the real evidence.
If ultimately it's found that repair procedure A was never performed by Mr. Roberts, that he just didn't do the work, is it your belief that the dealership is responsible for Miss Collins' death?
I don't know.
You wouldn't put up with a technician showing they did a recall but actually not doing it, would you?
No, sir, we would not.
And why is that?
It would be cheating.
It tears your heart out. I don't know how else to explain it.
Karen's death has just done something to all of us, but Mother more so. My mother's a lot more sad. She's a lot more sad.
I just keep thinking, I just wish that I could have told her that I loved her one more time. There's a hole in your heart. There's a missing piece, I guess, in my being. And it's not something, it's somebody. It's Karen.